This episode of Couch Potatoes Unite! Is sponsored by Blue Bridge Games. For the games and gifts you won't find anywhere else, head to Grand Rapids, Michigan's friendliest local game store, Blue Bridge Games. Blue Bridge Games carries an extensive line of board games, card games, role-playing tabletop games, Magic the Gathering, and more. Stop into their storefront on East Fulton or shop with them online at bluebridgegames.com.
You say you want to watch a drama. You say you want to watch a comedy. Well, you can watch it with your mama. Or you can watch it with your daddy.
You'll even sit and watch it with your middle schooler. So you can come and talk around a water cooler. We're watching all day and all night.
Couch Potatoes Unite.
Whoa, whoa.
Couch Potatoes Unite.
Whoa, whoa. Couch Potatoes Unite.
Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the podcast entitled Couch Potatoes Unite! Which is based on a blog of the same name because, chilling or not, this is who we are, and this is who we'll always be. Kind of like a little coven of our own, maybe. And of United TV watchers, naturally, not witches. You get the point. Okay. My name is Kylie and I love TV. If you feel the same, keep listening and or checking out our website, couchpotatoesunite.wordpress.com, as you're bound to find some common ground or something you like. For Couch Potatoes Unite, we're all about the wonders and unique long-form storytelling of the small screen. CPU! Hopes have been following releases of brand new episodes of the podcast on Wednesdays, as well as new blog entries on some Tuesdays, and as always, we have several more new episodes on the way. Because the panelists and I live lives behind our podcast, the episodes are published once per week. Subscribe to the website or podcast via iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, CastBox, Amazon Music, basically wherever you get your podcasts to stay on top of brand new episodes. Episodes already published discuss a variety of shows around the water cooler, including, but not limited to, Stranger Things, iZombie, The Good Place, Game of Thrones, Grace and Frankie, Mr. Robot, Altered Carbon, The Orville, Outlander, Westworld, Fuller House, Schitt's Creek, Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., The Crown, and Better Call Saul. Plus, new episodes are in the works, including revisits for The 100, Supernatural, This Is Us, Charmed, Riverdale, The Good Doctor Catching Up series will get caught up on Season 4. The American Horror Story franchise series panel will talk about Season 1 of American Horror Stories. The DCTU series panel will reflect upon Season 4 of Black Lightning, and the Star Trek 50 Plus series will discuss Season 1 of Deep Space Nine. We'll be launching new panels covering Big Little Lies, The Animaniacs, Killing Eve, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, American Gods, Grey's Anatomy, Cobra Kai, Peaky Blinders, The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, A Discovery of Witches, and The Hauntings of Hill House and Bly Manor. And because we look back at shows now past, we'll travel through time and experience all sorts of identities with Quantum Leap. We'll cry bazinga for Big Bang Theory. We'll dive deep into the fantasy world of The Magicians. We'll navigate the witty political satire of Parks and Recreation. We'll become psychos for Psych. We'll go where everybody knows your name with Cheers. We hope you'll be listening when we talk about Frasier, and we'll know that's what she said when we talk about The Office, both from the UK and the USA. By the way, did you know that CPU also from time to time goes live? We've been live from bunkers, comedy shows, Comic-Cons, game stores, and we're planning more live appearances and other cool stuff, including in whatever we're calling these times. So make sure you like or follow us at our Facebook page, our Twitter at CPU Podcast, our Instagram at Couch Potatoes Unite, or subscribe to the website, our YouTube channel, our Apple iTunes channel, our Stitcher Radio channel, or find us on Google Podcasts, Spotify, CastBox, iHeartRadio, and Amazon Music. In the meantime, if you don't hear your show in this podcast format, fellow panelists and I still write reviews, and we always seek new panelists. So if you've any interest in joining the discussion, say hello by finding us at any of the outlets I've mentioned. At the very least, stop by and leave us a thumbs up, comment, or review. We like feedback. Just don't sacrifice us to an eldritch horror, or to the Dark Lord, or to Lilith, or that guy Blackwood. Whatever. Let's just leave sacrificing people with opinions you don't like off the table generally, okay? There's so much sacrifice in this show, you know what I'm saying? Today we're around the water cooler and talking about the second part of the second season, or is it the fourth season, or is it the fourth part? Well, we know it's the final part anyway, because the series was canceled in July 2020 due to effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. And it's a supernatural horror web television series produced entirely by Netflix. The show is the chilling adventures of Sabrina, and Season 2, Part 2, otherwise known as Part 4, otherwise known as Season 4, was released to the Netflix streaming library on December 31st, 2020, with a total of 8 episodes, which means, for the record, this content is available to Netflix subscribers exclusively, as it is Netflix-produced original content. Also today, since the show was canceled, our panel will be taking a moment to look back at the whole show in our Canceled Corner feature, now that all is said and done, and so after such a brief time, too. As a reminder, The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina was developed by Roberto Aguirre Sacasa for Netflix, based on the Archie comic book series of the same name. It's produced by Warner Brothers Television in association with Berlanti Productions and Archie Comics. Aguirre Sacasa and Greg Berlanti serve as executive producers alongside Sarah Schechter, John Goldwater, and Lee Tolan Krieger. The series is centered on the Archie Comics character Sabrina Spellman, portrayed by Kiernan Shipka, and also stars Ross Lynch, Lucy Davis, Chance Perdomo, Michelle Gomez, Jazz Sinclair, Tati Gabrielle, Adeline Rudolph, Richard Coyle, and Miranda Otto. In this series, Sabrina Spellman must reconcile her dual nature as a half-witch, half-mortal, while fighting the evil forces that threaten her, her family, and the daylight world humans inhabit. Our panel of chilly witch wannabes, namely Kels, Selene, Jen, and Jessica, is back around the water cooler for their final chat about the latest and last chilling adventures of Sabrina Spellman and company. In addition, because the show offered up so many surprises in this final segment, we have a surprise of our own to reveal to you in a little bit. But before we do, and as always, I'm going to take a moment to take the panel's temperature because, after all, as we all know, sometimes a TV show can take turns for the better or worse in our heads, or it can continue its level of awesomeness or lack thereof, depending upon the story evolution. As always, it should be noted that all of our panelists have watched all episodes of all available seasons of Chilly Sabrina and may discuss sensitive plot points. So for those of you who have not watched any of this version of Sabrina and plan to do so at some point, listen at your own risk, as there may be major spoilers. Welcome back, panel. How are you?
Hello.
Hi, good.
Hey. I have feelings.
Hello, and you have feelings. You're so eager with the feelings. You announced it before I asked you if you were ready to talk about them.
I'm not.
Wow. How about the rest of you? Jess has feelings. How about the rest of you?
Yeah, I'm very ready. Let's go.
I have plenty of thoughts.
Fair enough. Well, what we're going to do
I
then...
need to talk with people about.
Fair enough. Well, what we're going to do then is do what we always do. Take your temperature along the standard CPU character question that changes with each show we do. I did tweak our character question a little, not a ton, but a little, since the last time we talked about Sabrina, which was about a year ago or maybe a little bit more since the last part. And so now you get to think about how you feel. And this is as you finish. We're going to have more of a looking back kind of feeling later, but just thinking about this part, how do you feel about the chilling adventures of Sabrina along this version of the character question? Would you say you love this show? It's your life? It may be too dark even for you sometimes, but you also believe it has power in what it portrays, and so you're willing to confront those dark forces, even if doing so is ultimately bad for you in the end, and or even if you have to magically duplicate yourself to properly enjoy everything it has to offer. You certainly appreciate this dark retelling for what it is, but the twists and turns also inspire your imagination, like Sabrina Spellman. Do you like this show? Most parts of it anyway. You can handle whatever the show throws at you, though you also find some of the story pretty far out, even for someone as open-minded as yourself. Still, the focus on family and occasionally even the romances is what keeps you coming back most, like Ambrose Spellman. Do you watch this show because you're protective of Sabrina and the legacy of the Sabrina character, but your feelings about this latest chapter in her saga are decidedly torn? On the one hand, you admire this retelling and love the new portrayals of old characters, but on the other hand, you feel it might be too caught up in the dark forces, which muddles the story, and sometimes even detracts from it, leaving you interested in the series' less dark story elements as the story progresses, like Zelda Spellman. Do you like this show because it stays true to itself, even if others see fit to overly criticize it or to toss it aside because it's different from what they're used to, like Theodore or Theo Putnam? Do you watch it because your best friend or your significant other watches it, though you're not shy about your opinions, which are decidedly mixed? Yet you see its potential even when others can't, like Roz Walker. Do you watch it because your family watches it, but the dark and sinister parts leave you feeling very uncomfortable, even when you can't help but embrace them at times, like Hilda Spellman? Has watching this show become complicated for you? You've lost interest in the Sabrina character, no matter how much nostalgia compels you to keep trying to love her, yet there are other parts of the show, aside from the main character, that intrigue you, and you can't help but continue to watch, like Harvey Kinkle. Do you love the dark and twisty atmosphere of the show, but you think the story has become too convoluted and sometimes offensive, given Father Blackwood's attempt to unleash eldritch horrors. You honestly wish he was dead, like Prudence Knight Blackwood. Did you try to enjoy watching the show, but it disappointed you, so you broke off your watching engagement for a while, only to return to it for this final portion of the show? You find the main character rather self-involved and reckless, and even though the bad boy boyfriend on the show is attractive, you also can't help but think the darkness in this show overwhelms everything else in it, which drives you crazy, though you weren't going to miss the end, even lucidly, for anything in the world, like Nicholas or Nick Scratch or Agatha, the weird sister. Do you dislike this show, but for the dark and twisty atmosphere? If it wasn't for the eldritch horror story arc in this show's segment, you would have lost your head, like Father Faustus Blackwood. Or you can't help but hate this show. Though there's something winning about the Sabrina character, you serve one master and one master alone, yourself, and you're aimed to be the true queen of hell. And so your efforts in recommending the show are done with only those thoughts in mind and or out of a feigned sense of loyalty to your dark lord, like Mary Wardwell, although she's kind of separate now, aka Lilith, a.k.a. Madam Satan, a.k.a. whatever she's going by these days. Who would like to start?
I guess I'll start.
Oh, good. I'm glad somebody volunteered.
Well, personally, I am I'd say, pretty even mixture between Harvey and Prudence.
What is your name?
Sorry. I'm Selene.
Hi, Selene.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm very good at forgetting that first part all the time.
You are.
I just jump right in.
You should know it by now.
I should. I don't even know at this
out.
point, but I just get too excited and jump further than I should.
That's typical.
Is there anything else I need to remember before I say who I am again?
No.
All right. I'm a mixture between... I am a mixture between Harvey and Prudence. Harvey because I love a lot of things about this show. Sabrina is not one of them. And actually the dark and twisty atmosphere is one of my favorite parts, but the show has gotten very convoluted and loses a lot in how difficult it tries to make itself.
Fair enough. Last time you were, this is the quote, Ambrose plus mostly Prudence, but a little bit of Harvey. So has your fraction slid? Is that what you're telling us?
Yeah. Well, let me look at Ambrose again. Yeah, I definitely am not coming back for any of the romances. Those are not doing anything for me. And the triangles, quadrangles, octagons at this point, who even knows of the relationships are just so, nope, don't care. Yeah, they've changed. I'd say I'm roughly 50-50 Harvey / Prudence.
Fair enough. Welcome back, Selene.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, I guess I'll go. Because we're on the same screen. Hi, I'm Kels.
Hi, Kels. I'm glad the listener was clarified about the screen.
Yes, you can't see it, but it's here. I am all Harvey. Just like straight up only Harvey this time.
Last time you were, quote, mostly Ambrose with a mix of someone not on this list.
Yeah, I don't know what that means.
I didn't know what it means either, but you said it.
It sounds 100% like something I would say. So I believe it without even having to go back and check. I mean, a lot of the romances are meh to me at this point too. I think they're just too... A lot of the romances at this point are just too, I don't know, dramatic. And back and forth for me. I think the closest one to something I care about is Robin and Theo, and even that one got, like, they had to add some drama in there that was, in the end, unnecessary. So yeah, I'm just kind of straight up Harvey this time, because I have not liked Sabrina for quite a while as a character, and this season really didn't do much more for her character for me. We'll get into that. Yep, that's where I'm at.
Welcome back, Kels. Kels, explain what being on the same screen means in terms of dynamics.
Okay, well, Selene is my wife. That's what that means.
Which means they might have spicier opinions with each other.
Yeah, or we might agree because we've already talked about it a lot.
All right, well, save it for when we talk in a minute. Welcome back, Kels.
I'm Jess, and I have feelings.
Hi, Jess, and I have feelings.
So I am a mix of, where did it go? Ambrose, because I do like the show and what it throws at me, but like the other two, I am over the romances. I'm done. So that is where Prudence comes in, because I thought it got kind of convoluted towards the end of everything, and I was just done. So that is who I am with my feelings.
All right. Last time you said you were basically the same as Selene with a slide up on the thing for Harvey, but then you were mostly Ambrose.
No, I think it's more Prudence, 75% Prudence and 25% Ambrose this time. That equals 100, right?
It does.
It's been a long week.
Fair enough.
I feel ya.
All right. Well, we'll get into that in a bit. Welcome back, Jess.
Thanks.
I'm Jen.
Hi, Jen.
Hi. So I think I'm actually going to keep the same characters that I did last time because I was a mix of Harvey and Zelda. But this time around, it's going to be more Harvey just because it got very complicated watching Sabrina. I'm kind of glad this was the final season or final part for it, but I'm also still very protective of the legacy for it. We'll get into that once it comes more, but I was definitely looking forward to seeing some of the 90s nostalgia come back towards the end of the season.
All right. Welcome back, Jen. And of course, my name is Kylie. I both participate and moderate on this panel, as is often the case. Last time, I was squarely Harvey with a little bit of Prudence. Now I like the 50-50 Harvey-Prudence split. I don't remember who had that, but I'm copying you now. So, just to recap, if you haven't listened to the previous entries in this water cooler series, Kylie has never really been the super fan of the show anyway, and now I'm just, kind of in the meh category when it comes to it. I don't think it was a waste of my time, but at the same time, there was just a lot to pick apart. There's too much to pick apart. It's going to be a great discussion for us, but there was just, I don't know that I could derive as much enjoyment from it as I could as much to kind of pan about it. And so that's where we're going. Oh, good. So, if you haven't heard, Netflix canceled the series, which it sounds like might not have been an unwelcome decision, but we'll get into that with our panel a little bit later on. The first thing we're going to do, though, is talk about these final 8 episodes, which could be Season 2, Part 2, or Part 4, Season 4. Who really knows the accounting on this show anymore? And why this show particularly compared to other shows? I don't know, but it must be something in the magics. But let's talk about these 8 episodes. I'm going to ask the general question, what did you like, what didn't you like? I have no idea where you want to start. I gave the very high sort of plot arcs this time because I feel like there's enough in the plot arcs to trigger your memories. So just go ahead and tell me wherever you want to start.
I would like to start with the double Sabrinas because one wasn't enough. We had to have 2.
Yes. But
did we really?
But what I was going to say was that I actually liked Queen of Hell Sabrina better.
Agreed.
Yes.
And I think that what that proved to us is that Sabrina should have just taken that path and, become Sabrina Morningstar, and other, Sabrina Spellman should have just not existed.
I mean, this entire season might not have happened with that, but yes.
That's okay. I'm okay with that.
I mean,
I would have rather watched a Sabrina Morningstar season.
I agree, actually. Her dealing with all of Kels' problems might have been more interesting.
I need justification for her romance with Caliban.
Yeah, that was weird.
Yeah.
That was a choice.
I also would kind of be very interested in knowing if she was aware of his duplicitousness, or if that was just he pulled the wool right over her face. Or Clay, I guess. Maybe it was Clay.
It was Clay.
It was definitely Clay. Like his balls.
Air quotes around Clay.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. Sabrina probably was like, I know what's going on, but I have love, so it's cool, even if he is made of
she
clay.
doesn't have love. She has shirtless lust. That's all that was. It was all about him not
and
having
Daddy's
his shirt.
approval.
And
Shirtless lust and a guy who would apparently castrate himself for her.
Yes.
I mean, he's Clay. He can just make new ones, right?
I don't know if that's how that works, Selene. They did not explain the clay golem rules for Mr. Caliban, so...
He seemed very against it to begin with, if he could just make new ones.
That's right.
But then they did seem to imply that he could just make new ones,
She
so I don't
definitely
know.
did. Like, whether or not she could reattach them, I don't know. She's a witch still.
Yeah.
They were just balls by proxy.
Now all I can think is that it's not fixable because he's in hell, and hell's kind of like a kiln, and kiln like sets clay, and then I spiraled in my own. I just spiraled.
You know what? There are no laws of science in this show, so I don't think we have to worry about that.
True.
Okay.
So yeah, Queen of Hell Sabrina was, I'm going to say, slightly more interesting than Sabrina Spellman. But
Yes.
mainly for me, that's because, not because I gave a crap about her and her being queen. I actually enjoyed the actor who played Lucifer on the show the whole time he was there.
I love Luke.
Is that his real name, Luke?
Luke Cook.
Okay. Yeah, he's real good, and he's kind of tasty, and I thought he did a really good job as this Lucifer. And he was
Not just-
charismatic, and he had really good chemistry with Michelle Gomez, and I just thought the whole thing was, when they were in a scene, it was more interesting. But yeah, I couldn't have given two craps about Sabrina marrying Caliban, really.
No, I didn't care about that, but I liked that when she was playing off of herself as Sabrina Spellman, that she seemed to have way more maturity and accountability all of a sudden, and I was like, now you're interesting. Like, now I would want to watch a show about you. So that's what makes me say that I would rather have watched a season with that character.
I think it's interesting that Sabrina, Queen of Hell, had better morals than Sabrina Spellman. Because the irony of that is just hysterical.
I just remember when she tried to make Bloody Mary a thing in the season premiere. I was not expecting that Bloody Mary portrayal for it as like the actual like Virgin Mary. And she was like trying to make it happen, but her trying to summon Bloody Mary or make that illusion seem realistic, it just didn't seem realistic.
So then part of the reason I think that Sabrina Spellman was so uninteresting is because she was a mopey sad sack for most of the season. She has no friends, she has no love life, she has no this. So you're bringing up the Bloody Mary piece of the season, which was in the premiere, and that was basically all a ploy for attention.
Yeah.
That was. So in the end, it was really very hard to care because Sabrina made her choice to like opt into the whole clone of herself motif, sending one part of her to hell and the other part to, quote, live a normal teenage life, but then spent a large part complaining about her normal teenage life. And I just really wasn't along for that ride. I thought, you know what? Being a teenager is hard enough. You don't have to bitch about it. And you really made this choice yourself. I have no sympathy for you, Sabrina.
I just had a whole lot of like, what is going on? Because for me, and I don't know if this is it for everyone else too, I felt towards the end of this season, chapter, part, whatever we're going with, that they knew it was the end, so they're like, we're gonna cram everything so you get an ending. And there were points where I was like, wait, what? Okay.
But then the question is, what's everything? Because so we'll just launch from where we were going offline, where we left off at the end of part 2, part 3, season whatever, the last one. Okay, there was the seed of the Eldritch Horror, there was the seed of the two Sabrinas, but there was a trajectory that seemed wholly and entirely different from where it actually landed. So the idea of cramming everything in would I'd agree with you, except for I don't think they knew what everything was supposed to be.
Right. And I that's kind of like where I was like, because personally, and I don't know much about Eldritch Horrors, I mean, I know a little bit, I feel like they were way too easy to beat.
Yes.
Way too easy to beat.
Yeah.
That's a whole other thing. Like the fact that they just willed Cthulhu out of Sabrina's body.
But didn't call it
like,
Cthulhu.
okay.
Why didn't they call it Cthulhu?
Right, the whole time I was like, that's not the weird, that's Cthulhu.
Just like as a sorry, this is a tangent, but like the part where Nick goes into space to like retrieve her body and they're like, and also we're just gonna use the weird as a weird mask thing that you can now breathe through. I was like, A spacesuit? Why don't you just... Spacesuits exist? Why are we doing this weird thing with the weird and it's on your face?
Cthulhu's your face mask in space now. Deal with it.
And how did he not get, like, the weird in him? Like, just because you froze it doesn't...
And how was the body of Sabrina okay when it was brought through space and totally frozen?
There's a little clause at the bottom that's like, when Cthulhu's used for space travel, cannot take your body.
Right, because Nick was like, my body will be okay because I was, like, forged in hell, or I can't remember. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Point. Sabrina's body was not okay. That body stayed dead. They used Sabrina Morningstar's body, not Sabrina Spellman's body. So Sabrina Spellman's body's dead. They just stole her soul.
Selene is correct. Sabrina Spellman.
What did that body get used for? Why'd they need it back?
They needed the
box.
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right.
Selene
Thank
is
you
correct.
for that.
You're welcome. But yes, those Eldritch horrors were way too easy to destroy, and I don't think it's the horror's fault. I just think it was really bad writing.
Right.
Also,
Salem was an Eldritch horror.
I enjoyed that though. That I enjoyed.
Let's hold the crossover because
we can hold the crossover, but that was
the trinket salesman
was weird.
Was weird, and I kept waiting for them to go somewhere with that, and then I thought he was going to be like
a horror,
the void.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
or Lovecraft himself,
or Lovecraft,
because
maybe he was, and they just never said it. Because also at the end, Selene and I were like, okay, she's reading the gospel of this guy that was Father Lovecraft, and like, who the heck is that?
I think somehow Father Blackwood was monikered Father Lovecraft because it wasn't the trinket guy. He never, and I was so, lots of thoughts are coming to my brain. The trinket guy was actually interesting. Like, oh, you're seeding something here. He pops up like a Deus Ex Machina, which they then named one of the episodes, by the way. So I thought, okay, this is really meta, really cheeky. He's really fun. He kind of reminds me of the actor who played Poe in Altered Carbon. So I was kind of like, very interesting dude. Let's develop this. He appears twice, disappears, and there's never an explanation. And I thought the whole time, this guy must be Lovecraft, because why would he have the imp? And why would he have the stone? And why would he have Pandora's box? Like, clearly
and know all the things.
He's clearly got a handle on the mythology. That's what Lovecraft did. And then he wasn't. And I thought this was so anticlimactic and lame by the end.
I loved that they kept asking him who he was, and he was like, I'm the trinket salesman. And I was waiting for, like, some kind of twist. And there was never a twist.
There was never a twist.
One episode.
No.
I was just going to say, I love how Sabrina asks questions of everything, but I'm the trinket salesman? Okay. I'll accept that one at face value. Sure.
But the thing that, like, I watched one of his episodes extremely tired, because like I said before, it's been a week. I got vibes of the guy from the beginning of Aladdin selling all the things at the market. And I was like,
the one who says, also make julienne fries. That guy?
Yeah. Yes.
I used to be able to do that whole speech. I'll think of it in a second.
But can I share my theory while it's fresh in my exhausted brain?
You can share your theory, but you know these theories are real shallow with
I know. They were so shallow. So I had not watched this season until this week. I know, bad on me as a panelist, but I did it. So I already knew about Kira doing the crossover with Riverdale. So as I'm watching this episode, the kid, what was his name, Lucas? Goes to Riverdale. So I'm like, oh, maybe she's going to go to Riverdale to find Lucas. That was theory number one. I don't know why, but it was. Again, I was exhausted this week. Also, the guy from the band that was killed is in Riverdale as one of the preparatory school guys where Jughead goes.
The guy from Satanic Panic?
No, the guy from the lead guy from the band that Satanic Panic kills.
The Philosopher's
douchey
Club or
band.
something.
Right.
Yeah.
Who was
That's him. He's the lead guy of the Dead Poets Society. Not Dead Poets Society, but please pick up where I'm going. I can't.
Is it the game?
So he was in both shows.
Yes, he was in both shows. So then my brain was like, Okay. And
Gargoyles and whatever.
I've always just had this theory that, like, Riverdale's kind of like purgatory. Because weird things, that's a whole other thing. I'm on both panels, guys. I apologize.
Do you mean Riverdale's the purgatory or Greendale's?
Riverdale's the purgatory. Because remember how I brought up, like, they don't have cell phones, they don't... But then, never mind, they did have cell phones. I'm exhausted and rambling. But Satanic Panic was going against Fred Andrews' band in Battle of the Bands. Because Fred Heads is Fred Andrews' band from Riverdale. Oh. So I thought that's how they were tying it all together.
Did they say it was Fred Andrews' band?
It's on the poster. It's Satanic Panic and Fred Heads, and then I went to Google because there was the flashback scene where KJ Appa was playing young Fred Andrews in Fred Heads. So it has been addressed in Riverdale that was his dad's band.
Interesting.
Easter egg for Riverdale.
I just had all these weird theories in my head that somehow Riverdale's like secretly a hell, and that's how it's all going to tie together.
Well, they did bring up Riverdale in the first episode of the season or part because they're talking about like sex ed at Greendale, and they said Riverdale has vending machines for all their condoms or something like that.
They mentioned it a few times. I thought they were just trying to like ham-fist a little bit of connection, but I did not see the Fred Heads. I did think the guy that you were talking about looked familiar, but I did not remember that he was on Riverdale.
I had to look it up because he looked so familiar, and I was like, there's no way that's him. And then I went to IMDb and found out that it is the same guy.
Fascinating. So they kind of got a little bit of a crossover going for this show, although I didn't notice it when it happened, so does it really count? It's like the tree that falls in the forest.
I think my hyper-aware brain was like reaching for straws.
You also like Riverdale more than I do, so I probably was just like, oh, that's nice.
But not really, because I've stopped watching.
Well, we'll get to that when we get to our next Riverdale episode. That makes me a little scared. What else about Chilling Adventures of Sabrina's Season 2, Part 2, Part 4, Season 4?
I also was kind of weirded out that Roz became a witch. Not in a bad way, but I didn't see it coming.
I liked how they kept her separate initially. I don't think she should have been considered a witch.
It was very Vampire Diaries of them.
Agreed.
Thank you.
I think it was very interesting how they categorized her as a witch while never actually like having her do any witchy thing outside of her seeing abilities. Which not to say that there's not different degrees of witches, but they just never really have gone into that so much. So
yeah, it was nice that they were like, actually you're a witch, and then it wasn't like, and now you have to learn all these other witch things, or like now that you know you get all these other powers. It was just like, we're relabeling what you've already known, kind of.
Also, did I miss something on Prudence having like the power of like a seer, or did that just pop up this season?
I think it's been kind of, I'm not going to say implied, but like if you go back and look at the first 3 seasons, I think her and the Weird Sisters together have kind of had that
power
aura that they tapped into without ever explicitly saying.
Yeah, I agree with...
I did like them becoming the new Weird Sisters. Like her and Madam, not Madam anymore, and...
Yeah. I agree with Selene. I think it was specifically a mechanic of being one of the Weird Sisters. And in Prudence, because she was A, kind of the leader of the trio, and B, Blackwood's daughter, I think I always assumed, or I guess went along for the ride in the terms of suspension of disbelief, that she was a little bit stronger than Agatha and Dorcas, or in the end, even than Roz and Mamba Marie, or whatever the heck her name was. Yeah. But
so I liked that trio a lot.
I was indifferent to it because they ended up just being a device to see the oncoming eldritch horrors, and then not always, because Sabrina discovered them half the other times anyway, because she was always in their faces. Because apparently they were always out to kill her. Why? Why, Sabrina?
I don't know. Well, and then conveniently Ambrose knows how to kill them all.
Ambrose was like super... He was like the Dumbledore of the season.
He was. And why did Nick always have to be with him?
Yeah, I don't know.
Like every time he was like, and I'm gonna help out with this thing, and Nick, you're coming with me.
Because they're secretly also lovers.
I was gonna say bros before hoes, but
I mean, not so secretly because
Yeah.
we've actually
We
seen
did have that episode.
We've seen it. We've seen the orgies.
I would like
Oh,
more of
God.
that, please.
I will say Ambrose was like I've always loved Ambrose throughout this entire season or series. But like Ambrose just sealed the deal for me. I love him.
I also really love the way he holds his like wand. Like, very interesting choice. I want to know if it was the actor choice or if it was like a director choice, because very strong choice. Love it. I'll never forget it.
Chance Perdomo, if you're listening to this episode, please tweet at us, CPU Podcast. Answer Celine's question. She wants to know your choice or someone else's.
I feel like it would be his choice. He just seems like that kind of person that would be like, I want to hold my wand this way.
Yeah.
And they were like,
It's
anything for you.
It's a purple lightsaber moment.
It is.
Well, we just crossed a whole bunch of things in there. Star
He's
Wars,
bringing all the nerddom to
Harry
Sabrina.
Potter.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't like the random, all of a sudden, Mambo Marie is now...
Not who
Yeah.
she said she was.
Yeah, like, that came totally out of left field.
It sure did. Seeded
And was
nothing.
totally a device to get past...
Anyone having happy endings like Auntie Z finding
that too, but
Yeah.
no, that specific Eldritch Terror, really, because it was her. Suddenly they were like, you need to go up against, I can't remember who it was. but-
Lazarus.
Lazarus, what was the name of the terror? It
The
was
Return.
The Return,
Yes.
thank you. Yeah.
And I think that was a very interesting thought.
Yeah.
And could have been a very interesting story that we don't get enough time to understand at all, and then you're just watching it and you're like, what the hell is going on?
I'm
Yeah.
just
I mean,
gonna-
the costumes and the makeup for it were really cool, but it was just
a
like,
fever
Yeah.
dream.
yeah, it was like a fever dream.
I'm just gonna argue that anything related to Mambo Marie or whatever her name was out of left field. Her appearance, we already talked about this in the last episode, and Selene tried to disagree with me because of her certain radar for things, but I disagree with her. The whole Zelda...
I still disagree with her about that too, but I
Thank
do
you.
think that the relationship was more established this season.
It was better
And
established.
I'm like, yeah, I'll go with it. But then all of a sudden, yeah, now she's not like who she said she was, and that was so weird.
With zero hints all along the way about any of this. Why did she appear before? Was that all a setup for this? Why did they give us any foreshadowing or clues? And then, but I guess Zelda got her familiar back, so all is well. Da, da, da,
Yay, Vinegar Tom!
No,
Yeah.
I had strong, and Marie might have been interesting because there's various versions of Voodoo Queens in sort of these genre shows, and everybody has a different spin on it. But they spent zero time. She was so two-dimensional, which is
Yeah,
sad.
I agree.
Also, again, did I miss, like, I'm jumping all over the board, so I apologize,
You're
but
fine.
Theo and Robin.
Yeah.
I thought Robin was the only hobgoblin, and then now all of a sudden he has hobgoblin friends?
He was the only hobgoblin palling around with the pagans.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What they kind of explained, not well, but they did explain it this season, was that many of the hobgoblins had receded into the woods, the Feylands, with the rest of their kind because of the fact that there was all this evil stuff that kept coming into this realm. So they were retreating, and that's why his friend came to find him where Theo was like under the bed, or she was, the Fae was under the bed, and Theo was like, So
Yeah.
I thought that, like, Theo and Robin were completely forgot about this entire season up until that
for
episode.
sure.
And then it was just so barely there. Their relationship, their characters were barely there except for that one storyline to make you kind of be like, sad.
And to make out in the background to make Sabrina feel lonely.
Yeah, well.
yes, that was the other piece.
Yeah.
Well, and on the one hand, you can sort of applaud the fact that we have a trans character in a gay relationship. That doesn't get depicted
Right.
very often. But then, it went nowhere. They had nothing.
Just fell off the face of the map and then got brought back up for some slight trauma.
And quite frankly,
Yeah.
at least their development was seeded before, and there was a trajectory that led us into this, so that they were established at the top of this segment. But the development from before was really shallow too. Like, they clearly were drawn to each other, and they were kind of romantically involved at the end of the last segment, but it wasn't. We spent far more time on Sabrina's will they, won't they with every other male member of this cast than we did with...
Well, yeah, and I don't even think at this point in time you can really say, like, it's so great that we have a trans character in a gay relationship, because I think that we're starting to get more representation now, to the point where more is expected from those characters. So it was really just, like, disappointing writing. I mean, overall. But,
Yeah.
I don't think it's exclusive to the Theo Robin relationship.
it certainly is not, no.
Briefly going back to Sabrina and Nick, why the hell, like, what was that switch for Nick? To go from, I'm happy in a relationship with Prudence, to, I can't survive without you?
We are the end-all, be-all.
We are
Endgame.
Endgame.
So, I at first...
He actually watched the last Avengers movie.
Alright.
And Thanos unsnapped his brain, and therefore he had the hots for Sabrina again.
Well, okay, so initially I thought this is happening at the end of the Imp of the Perverse episode. Maybe this is one of those things where once they switched back, there was going to be a perversion of this somehow. Which, I mean, I'm not saying there wasn't. I still think that there was a perversion in that whatever. But, like, I thought it was going to, like, manifest as something. I was hoping for it to manifest as something, like a plot point or something, and then it didn't. And then also, I'm jumping to the end, but what the hell was that ending?
That's what confused me.
I am so upset with the fact that they're just like, oh, I took a swim in the sea of sorrows, so here I am in death with you. Like, excuse me, the fuck are we doing?
Romeo were Endgame. Literally, he
you
was
took
like,
what I was going to
"Bitch."
say, Kels.
I'm just so mad that we are glorifying suicide because for a loved one.
He was just like, I said we were Endgame. Here we are in death together. What up? I'm so sorry. I'm on it tonight. I was so sorry.
Well,
Yeah, no.
with Celine's rant, she feels stronger, but I have the same logic. The whole ending, we can't say the F word, Selene. The whole ending...
I'm real sorry.
Did you say the F word?
I
Sure
did.
did.
I'm so desensitized to it.
The whole...
Sorry, if you need me to do a retake so that you can edit it in.
I can edit it out, it's fine. But the whole ending, and we're skipping over crossover for just a moment, the whole ending was a cluster of epic proportion.
Yeah.
That
There were so
finale
many loose
is
ends.
quite possibly
It was
one of the
weird.
worst finales I've ever seen.
Yes.
I don't think anyone even really got a happy ending.
Well, technically,
If you
I guess
count
we did say
Ghost Nick
Hilda
and
did
Ghost
because she's
Sabrina.
still married to Mr. Cerberus.
They didn't kill Dr. C? I'm
Dr.
so
C
happy.
is alive. His
I
mom
really-
was weird.
I really thought that they were going to kill Dr. C in the wedding episode at one, like 2 points. I was like, oh no, the wedding's not going to really happen.
Also-
He's going to die.
I thought
one is
I thought his
Rising of the demon out of Dr. C.
Oh,
Z.
How many people did that sex demon have to go into?
So many people were. And where did it even end up at the end of all of it? I don't even remember.
In Sabrina's husband, in the what's his face, the uninvited, who she
Uninvited.
locked in the house. I was so mad about that. That was not fair. Poor uninvited.
He just wanted to be loved. He was so excited, and she locked him in a dollhouse. I was
There
so
was that moment when, in the episode that we're going to talk about, but I just need to say, where she said that she was married, and I was like, yeah, to the uninvited, and then I remembered that she was Sabrina Morningstar, and that she was married to Caliban, and she said so, and I was like, oh yeah, never mind.
Yeah, that
Also,
part.
just so much.
I thought she was actually owning up to something she had done, and that she was, you know.
I honestly
No,
thought
I also wanted her to admit to anybody else outside of Hal that she had married the uninvited, but she never said it out loud.
She never said anything. She's too ashamed to admit that she married that hermatic man.
I honestly thought Dr. C was going to meet his end at the hands of his returned mother.
Oh my god.
She was so
yeah.
funny.
Yeah.
And of all of the Eldritch horrors, she might have been the scariest thing that we saw. So
Don't
Yeah.
call me mother.
I was getting real Psycho vibes, some real Norman Batesy kind of stuff happening there.
Also, what determined, and then this is just a question that was bothering me, and I was like, I'll just ask during the podcast recording. What determined who could come back for
Nothing.
that?
Nothing.
So
It
why
was-
didn't Sabrina's mom come back? That's all I want.
I also wanted to know that answer.
Because of the plot and the writing.
They couldn't afford another actress.
Quote, end quote.
So
The
that's
That would have
why I
been
thought
the
yes.
best Melissa Joan Hart.
That would have been so
Would have been her mother. Sorry.
Oh,
I was waiting so much for her to show up in that episode.
When we talk about the crossover, I will bring up when I thought that we would see her in the crossover.
Are we
'Cause I
getting
have-
ready to talk about the crossover?
Can we?
Yes.
Okay, hold on. Folks and friends. That's the one I like. Folks and friends. We have a surprise for you. Since the Couch Potatoes Unite! Has been covering all properties featuring somebody named Sabrina Spellman. And since this segment of Chilling Adventures of Sabrina brought on a few members of Sabrina the Teenage Witch, we've decided to reunite our Sabrina the Teenage Witch panel, meaning that our most frequent panelist, Kristen, is on the panel ready to talk about the crossover episode. Welcome, Kristen!
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Thanks for being here. We're excited to have you. And I think, so just to clarify, of this panel, the Sabrina the Teenage Witch panel was Kels, Selene, Jen, and Kristen. Jess did not opt into that one. She was like, I don't want to watch that one again.
I had just rewatched Charmed. There was so much going on.
So we're bringing on our Sabrina the Teenage Witch panel with our Chilling Adventures of Sabrina panel, which is basically one person difference, to talk about episode 7, which dealt with the appearance of Beth Broderick and Caroline Ray as new versions of Aunt Zelda and Aunt Hilda, but still with all the Easter egg references. So everybody, talk about Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
I love the tacky looking Salem.
The best.
Oh my god, I loved it.
so for that, I'm really upset that Nick Piette did not come back to voice Salem.
Yeah,
Me
that's the one thing that I
too.
looked up too. I'm like, okay, full disclosure, this is the only episode of this Sabrina that I have seen is this crossover.
That's okay. I would really like to know how you feel about that later because there's a lot of questions.
Yeah, so
Or
I
now.
completely blind. Great, the answer here, like that's why I watched it. And then they don't have the same voice of Salem. I mean, I'm assuming from what I Googled, the person who did voice him is part of the cast or was part of the cast of this Sabrina. But
I think it was the guy who played Lucifer, but we can double check that.
I'm looking it up right now.
Thanks.
yeah, but yeah, I love the fact that with how meta everything got, that they made Salem, the puppet cat, look as horrible as possible.
My favorite was like right after she was like, the cat talks, and then the scene ends, and they're cutting away, and the guy's going, I'm sorry, Mr. Saberhagen.
Yeah, Salem is the star now.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
so
again,
Oh,
we should have had Salem's original voice actor, because as soon as I heard the puppet talk and he had a British accent, I was like, no.
good. That,
And
yeah,
he
that
You're
was
Puppet
bring
great.
back
does
Aunt
have a
Hilda and
British
Zelda, you're
accent.
bringing back Salem too.
yeah. Missed opportunity if they didn't reach out to him, or lack of explaining on why they chose not to use him.
Yeah.
I was really expecting Melissa Joan Hart to show up randomly somewhere.
I thought she was going to be the Sabrina under the bed. That's where I was going with it. I really wanted her to lift up the sheet to look under the bed and Melissa Joan Hart just be like, yoo-hoo.
Or
Or
like
have
throw
her
in
be
the
the
green room.
understudy.
Oh, or
Yeah.
have her in the green room. She could have been the Sabrina that just got kicked off the show. That
That's
would
what-
have been good.
That's what I thought. No, that's what I
Yeah.
thought. Whatever.
What episode was it again? Because I am
7.
confused.
Or
7.
7.
7. Thank you.
So like right before the series finale.
I did enjoy the fact that Salem was the Endless, though, and the fact that this is the longest running show on television made me laugh real hard.
Yeah.
It was, in fact, Lucifer Morningstar that voiced Salem, so it was Luke Cook.
Ugh.
I can always identify my voices, especially when they have British accents. Yeah, no, but he was no Nick Piquet, and that's unfortunate because Salem is my favorite from the older show, and if they're gonna do the puppet cat, they should have gotten the real voice. Is he still alive?
Huh?
Is Nick Piquet still alive?
Yeah, he's still alive.
All right,
I checked out on Wikipedia.
Okay,
I don't think he's been active, though, for a couple of years. Not even counting the...
What happened to Bad Puppet Salem? Because he came through the mirror with Sabrina.
At one point, he got dropped on the floor, but then he just disappeared. I looked for him.
Because I thought for sure, when we panned to Salem, it was going to be Bad Puppet Salem, and he was going to continue to talk.
No, I noticed that. I was like, where you carried him the whole time through, and it seemed like you went through the mirror with him, and I guess he's just lost to the endless void endless. I don't know. What Eldritch horror? I don't even care.
Continuity errors.
So many. So many.
That's a large one, honestly.
Yeah.
Like a void-sized plot hole.
You would say that, wouldn't you?
I did love seeing the original Aunt Hilda and Aunt Zelda, though. That made me happy.
Mm-hmm.
That made me happy.
Yeah, and it seemed like the costume designer for this show kept their original aesthetic
Mm-hmm.
and just made it fit with the new look and feel of this Chilling Adventures one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
While
It's
still
very-
sort of invoking the new Zelda and Hilda in the costumes and makeup, because Caroline Ray had the bright blue eyeshadow that Lucy Davis always sports, for example, and I think Beth Broderick had sort of a redder lip, like, Eowyn. I just think of her as evil Eowyn every time I'm watching this show.
I actually turned to Selene during this episode and was like, of all of the episodes, like, this is the most nightmarish to me, because, like, being an actor and watching this episode was incredibly frightening. Especially at the beginning, like, before we found out the whole, like, Eldritch terror and, like, all of that stuff. Just, like, I was like, I think I've had this nightmare, like, several times.
I have had that nightmare.
Another bad fever dream.
I've
Wait, Kels,
dreamt
have you
where I
had
was
it
in
where
a...
you can only have milk and tuna as well?
No, thank goodness. Thank goodness.
Wait.
Tuna was not Soylent Green.
Tuna.
So, yeah.
There was a real Sweeney Todd vibe about that tuna.
Poor Ambrose.
Don't eat anything in cans.
Don't eat anything again.
Stick to the chips.
Oh my goodness. What was I going to say? I lost it.
Also, them in the weird makeup was terrifying, and I was like, are you demons? Are you pigs? Because you kind of look like a pig.
I just kept thinking about how much fun it had to be for those two to be in that makeup chasing people around. I was like, that had to have been so much fun to come back and play these characters and then get to just be like, For those who can't see, I made like the zombie.
Well, you also had the sound effects, so I think it was heavily implied.
Yeah, it was kind of like
Also-
a zombie meets Frankenstein.
Uh-huh.
Watching old Aunt Z eat news, Aunt Z's, body was... it was so good, but so bad, all at the same time. I also like how Salem was narrating everything. He was like, and Aunt Zelda rolls her ankle, and Aunt Hilda has a sneezing fit. The gate
That's
is
because
open.
he's the head writer. Salem's the head writer. That's why he could do that. He was invoking the magic.
Yep.
Oh,
But he
boy.
couldn't invoke something more useful other than a sneezing fit and rolled ankles.
Well, because the void was after him. The void was always after the endless.
This is true.
I do enjoy... I know Selene kind of already said this, but the fact that Salem is the eldritch terror that is the endless on a so-called endless TV show, which is exactly how the original Sabrina the Teenage Witch felt.
And that's why I didn't sign up for that panel.
especially when you're trying to watch that show for a podcast.
Yeah.
That you're doing the whole show in one podcast episode.
Felt so bad, but I guess that's what this one has going for it. Again, someone who's completely blind. This is literally, I only watched this episode and that was it. But it seems like they ended it at a good time.
Yes.
I mean, actually, it could have been 2
It could have been 2
before,
seasons
but-
ago.
Mm-hmm.
At least it was 4 seasons and not like, the 7 that we've got of the other version.
Yeah.
And don't forget the animated series. I grew up with that, and that was
Forget the
another
animated series.
nostalgia
I tried
thing for
really
me.
hard.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed the cockroach costume they had to put
It was so campy. I loved it. Like, they didn't even, what was it, the high school scene where she has to kiss Harvey, like one true love's kiss. He gave like no second thought to like, oh yeah, I'll just kiss her as a cockroach. That's fine.
Yeah.
Halloween costume. She can take it off.
Also, Faustus being like, think Kafka. Cracked up.
I agree. Faustus as the director, quote unquote, was probably one of my favorite parts of this episode because he was hilarious. And he had all these... So, this show really embraced its telling of the absurd all the way through. But on this episode in particular, it's like they went all for it. Just all in on absurdity. It didn't matter what it was. And because they committed to the episode... It didn't add a lot to the overall plot arcing, really, but this was probably one of the best episodes from a writing standpoint, just because it followed its own rules, which were just crazy anyway.
Yeah,
Agreed.
I agree.
Yeah.
This one was the one I enjoyed the most from this season or half or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And not just from the nostalgia, actually. I mean, it was nice to see the ants, but that wasn't even the most gleeful part of the episode for me, I don't think.
I was intrigued and curious, though, about the fact that when Harvey offers to show Sabrina the pilot episode, the first episode, it's still the same Sabrina. That really threw me for a loop. I thought they were going to do, pull an actual old Sabrina episode, or maybe even just a random, maybe have Elspeth in there as the fake Sabrina. I was very confused by the fact that they pulled a straight up old part of an episode. That bothered me.
So that confused
Nick was
me.
creeping me out. Nick started to creep me out. I am Harvey. I am Harvey. I'm Harvey.
Well, he was under the control of the Endless, though. I agree with you, Selene, that bothered me at first until I realized what they were doing with the episode. It was a meta commentary on the audience watching this Sabrina, especially if they had formerly watched Sabrina the Teenage Witch. That's why I thought it was so clever. If I was going to give an award for best episode in the series, this episode would have gotten it. It's the only time that the writing actually coalesced into something that made logical sense and was funny.
Yeah.
But we brushed past this. You said you want to do it later. They asked now, Kristen, since you're here, and this was the only episode that you ever watched
Literally,
of Chilling
the only one.
Yeah. So tell us, aside from the crossover sampling of Sabrina the Teenage Witch that was present, what'd you think of your taste of the Chilling Adventures?
I feel like, just based on what I've heard about the show and what you all have said since I've popped on, I feel like this is probably the best one to watch if I was going to pick one episode to watch. Ironically, usually that's the very first episode of the series, but I feel like based on commentary, this is the best one of the series to maybe pick up. I mean, I didn't know who Ambrose was. I had a little bit of okay, this is I knew what Ross Lynch was playing Harvey, but I don't know who any of the other characters were outside of the ants. The little bit of previously on that I got at the very beginning was helpful to give me the general idea of okay, this is where I'm popping into. But as a whole, the story was pretty easy to follow on its own, even coming in completely blind, which was nice. But I don't know, I love this episode. I thought it was great. I like the whole, it's super meta. Loved it. I don't know if I'll go back and watch the whole series. I probably won't, just because there's so much other TV that I watch right now, and it's hard to add another one onto my list. I don't know, maybe one day. But I liked it. I really enjoyed myself watching it. I watched it again this afternoon just to kind of remind myself what happened, because I think I'd watched this back in the spring or whatever. I thought it was fun. I liked it. It was a good little mini nostalgia trip, and yeah, I liked that it's completely different from the original Teenage Witch version that we got.
Cool.
Yeah, but surprisingly, I could understand most of it. I got okay, the Eldritch Terrors are a bad thing. Ambrose in the other universe that she came from is pretty smart, and yeah, so it was great. Loved it.
Oh, good. I'm glad it didn't completely leave you behind in the dust. Like, you're not going to understand anything, because every once in a while I was kind of like, ooh, anyone who's just watching this episode might be very lost right now.
And like I said, like, if it wouldn't have been for the previously on clips at the beginning, I would have been totally lost. But there's little things that they left that I could easily pick up of what's generally happening in the story, even if I don't know what all the Eldritch terrors are, how they originated, why they're bad. I just know that they're bad. The Void is like the worst one. I got that pretty easily just from clues, but yeah.
Selene raises a good point, although I would also say that even if you were watching it all along, did you really understand everything that was happening?
No, you did not understand everything that was happening.
No.
So I don't think that Kristen or any other casual Sabrina the Teenage Witch fan would really have been at a loss, is what I'm concluding.
Yeah, because chances are, if they're like me and they're like, oh, the ants popped up on this other show that I'm not watching, but I watched the one from ABC in the 90s, I mean, they probably only watched the clip with the ants where they were like acting in the show, like, oh, that was good, dear, and this is how things happen in this world. That's probably all they would have seen, and that's all they would have cared about, and then off they go.
Mm-hmm. Fair.
Mm-hmm.
It just was confusing. I know we keep coming back to that, but like there were just moments where they were like, well, what other shows have you been on? So are they implying that other planets or other TV shows? Like, I just was fever dream through and through with this episode.
I guess I didn't get mired down into those details because I figured it was just a quirk of this cosmos, if you will, which wasn't going to last anyway, and we knew it, so...
Yeah, I just assumed it was part of, like, the weird brainwashing that was being an actor in this, universe.
I thought that was a very interesting, maybe device that they were using, though, like the, oh, that must have been a really fun show you came from. I've been on plenty of shows before. Like they all have these memories of being in other things, but they don't actually remember them. And it seems like the more they're in there, the more they tend to forget. So I really did enjoy that. And then I had to see the date like 3 times reset before I was like, that is the exact same date. I thought so. That's the same date.
Then at the end, the last date on the calendar, because the
Right.
vote arrived. Yeah.
Yeah, that part was cool.
That was cool.
Yeah.
That and this happens every season. You have the Void every season? No. Just, a show-ending thing happens every
Like
season.
a wedding, where somebody dies. Or a wedding. This time it's just a world-devouring void. It's fine.
But they did mention every season finale from the original Sabrina when they were going through those. And I greatly appreciated that.
That was one of the better Easter eggs, I do have to say.
Oh, I liked one of the lines too. It was one of the friends where they said something about, they wouldn't give me a boyfriend. Or
Yes.
I have an arc now. I was like, yep, that's definitely Jenny and Valerie. Oh,
Yeah.
When Roz is like, the writer said I'm going blind, so I'm going blind.
That was so creepy.
Permitted.
If the show had ended on this episode, I would have probably been better about it.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to say about the crossover, episode 7?
I don't remember if do we see the Void in this episode, like when they're actually in the Void, or is that next episode?
That's next
All right, then I'll
episode.
wait for the next episode then.
all I saw was like when they were running through to get to her mirror at the very end, you could see like people, whether it's actors or crew, were being like sucked up into the air with this like eerie glowing light in pitch darkness. So that's all we saw in this one.
No, the representational Void was definitely in the series finale.
Okay, I do want to talk about that when we're done with this.
Fair enough. Kristen, thanks for coming on and chatting with us and reuniting the panel.
Thanks for having me. I was happy to pop into this cosmos, and now I'll pop back into my other one. So
Sounds like a
Thanks for
plan.
visiting us.
Yeah, thanks.
talk to you later.
Talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. Well, that was fun. I really enjoyed that. I hope we can find other ways to bring on random guest people like that.
Who knows? Maybe in our Riverdale podcast.
Maybe.
Foreshadowing. But I know. Let's talk about that series finale then. So yeah, we have this whole Sabrina's going to martyr herself Sabrina Spellman, that is, because by this time, Sabrina Morningstar has expired.
By running through a mirror.
By running through the mirror, yes. She crashed through the mirror and was apparently impaled on that whole force of crashing through the mirror. And then...
But her body looks perfectly healthy when it's on the mortuary table, and it's not because Ambrose did any work on her face yet.
How do you know that?
Ambrose could have worked magic with how he holds that wand.
Yeah, I can't.
Yeah.
Celine, I can't get on that because we've seen Ambrose and his fabulous, whatever you call those skills.
Mystic arts.
that?
That's not what it's called.
It's not called that, but I was trying to think of what the funeral...
Mortuary arts.
Yeah, that's it.
mortician.
Fine, let's go with that. Mortuary arts. We all know Ambrose is a miracle worker with some stuff. And he was Dumbledore this season, so maybe he up-leveled somewhere and we just don't know.
Maybe.
But, anyways, so yes, Sabrina Spellman decides she must be the one to eradicate the void, and she does that encountering the Trinket Man, who asks for his imp back, the perverse imp, but trades her the Pandora's box, which he says is the only way that will end the void, because it will suck all the evil in that Pandora released when she opened the stupid box. Long, long ago in a galaxy far, far away. And so she goes into the void and decides to do this, but even though that will cost her her life a second time. Celine, you're raising a finger. Go.
I want to know how she didn't release hope when she opened that box to trap the void. Just throwing it out there.
Well, every time they introduced... So it was really cool, on the one hand, that they dove into sort of these mythological and other aspects and yanked them into the story. But every time they did that, including with the Lovecraftian crap, it was very shallow and underdeveloped.
Agreed. I just had to throw that out there because it did bother me.
Also, they said that it was going to suck all the evil in, so clearly they're saying Sabrina's evil, which we all knew. But
I guess that's true. I didn't think through that part of it, because she ended up surviving.
Through no fault of her own. She tried very hard to stay.
That's true.
She didn't survive by choice. They sucked her soul back.
That's true.
Yes.
They couldn't part with her relatives and friends, so a big coven spell yanks her soul back.
So in theory, Sabrina's not to blame. It's her family that couldn't let her go.
So they must be the evil ones.
We ran right past what I said I was going to talk about.
Okay,
The void.
let's talk
the
about the
void.
void.
Very good place of them, Janet, to have Janet's void literally spell out the void for them. Like, that straight up came from The Good Place. Like, there was
I'm pretty sure they just used the same set.
This is lost on me because I have not watched The Good Place.
Okay, if you haven't watched The Good Place or listened to our very exciting series, which features Kels and Selene on the panel, please highly recommend The Good Place. 10 out of 10.
Definitely.
It's on Netflix. B, listen to that series because we have lots of thoughts, and that one was well written.
Yes.
Yeah.
Unlike some other shows we're talking about today, just Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. Yes, it was very reminiscent of Janet's
Chili
Void.
Mac.
What?
She called it Chili Mac.
It said Sabrina Chili Mac. That's what I'm calling it now.
That's fine. That's the secret hashtag. Hashtag Sabrina Chili Mac. I wish I could give out prizes for the secret hashtag because I think that would be fun.
I like the Good Doctor secret hashtag, but that's because
There's multiple ones. Which one did you do?
the hashtag Kitty from Glee.
Oh yeah, Kitty from Glee. Morgan is Kitty from Glee. That's for the Good Doctor
Morgan's Kitty
panel,
from Glee.
which Jessica
Listen to
is
it.
on. So-
Okay.
I'm not your boss.
I should probably watch The Good Doctor first, and then I'll listen.
It's a good note.
Okay, this is going nowhere fast. So back to the void.
Woo! Back to the void.
But yeah, also I did enjoy that they went white with the void and all of the voidy blood thing
Versus black, yeah.
versus black, which is what you would expect. But it did come across very Good Place. That was a good thing, I guess.
Also, before I forget,
The void is white. That's
The
what's
void
good
is
about
white.
this episode.
That was good.
I don't know, again, I'm sorry guys, but when Sabrina was, like, they're chanting around her, Agatha and the ants are, the lady in the back, have we seen her in other episodes?
I think they were inferring that was Hecate.
I think so as well.
Okay.
I thought that was, like, death.
I thought it was, but then in my brain thought that it was this show. I've watched so many shows now that I guess they're all starting to bleed together. That, like, anytime death was close, that they saw this person, but I don't think that was Sabrina Chili Mac anymore.
No, it wasn't.
No. Also, Hecate, I believe, is the goddess of death or related to death when it comes to sort of the pagan views on Hecate, number one. Number two, Agatha, Hilda, and Zelda were all representational of Mother,
Of the
Maid, and
three.
Crone. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that at
She
least
wasn't looking particularly cronish, though, which would have been her in the death.
Also, I feel like if this season would have gone on, that this would have broken Aunt Hilda. Because, like, after Sabrina's death, she was a completely different person when talking to Zelda.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think we would have had... I think we would have had the darker Hilda that we had seen in seasons prior. Like, when she poisoned the cookie for that one person. And,
I
like,
still love that part, though.
I love that part. But I think had the series continued to go on, that's where Hilda would have, like, veered to. Like, I think losing Sabrina would have been it.
I think Zelda was Crone because earlier in the season part, they were going to do that whole festival celebration whatever for Hecate, and there was that joke about how even though she doesn't look like a crone, and then everybody snickered.
No, I wasn't talking about that. I was talking about the woman that showed up
The veil
that we were saying was Hecate, but I was saying that she didn't look particularly cronish, which if she was supposed to be Hecate appearing at the time of death, you would think.
No, I think that she was there to show that she was helping keep Sabrina alive until everyone could be brought back. Like, I think that her
Maybe,
presence
but
there...
once she showed up, Sabrina started dying, is all I'm
Sabrina
saying.
they were bleeding her.
Well, she really started dying.
with her milky blood.
With her milky blood.
Her milky blood.
I'm not gonna lie, I thought she was gonna survive because I'd heard about this crossover episode, so I assumed...
I thought so too.
She was gonna make it through. Actually, so good on them. I mean, I guess it's not really because this has been out for a year. Bad on me for not having watched it by now. And just assuming that this meant she was gonna live. So,
Can we talk about how crappy the art was in heaven?
Was that really
is
heaven?
it heaven? I thought it was the afterlife.
Okay.
Yeah.
Quote
It's
unquote,
the hereafter.
It's the celestial
hereafter.
plane. Yeah.
Good place?
Yeah, that's Good Place
It's the
2.0.
good place.
The medium place, because I'm going to
The mediocre place.
Morning Star is.
Yeah.
That was Spellman, though.
Oh, yeah, sorry, Spellman. Sabrina
It's not the
Morningstar
good
is
place,
good.
it's the mediocre place.
The medium place. Yeah, that art, though. I was like, she just has to sit on that bench all day with those 3 art pieces? That's unfortunate.
I'm assuming she chose the art pieces, though. So what does that really tell us?
Well,
It
she
tells us
was
all we need
reading
to
a
know
book
about
too,
Sabrina.
wasn't she?
That scene reminded me of the Day of the Doctor when they're all in the room
Oh,
looking
yeah.
at the painting of Gallifrey. I thought, well, that was really derivative and somebody's a Doctor Who fan. That's what I thought. So,
Yeah.
This show I had hopes and they all just kind of crashed and burned, and that's okay.
there was a lot of promise.
Always. They always brought in some very interesting and really fun ideas, and then it's like they have a really good think tank and not a really good writer's room. I am so sorry, writer.
It's like they have like some sort of like, I guess like ADHD. They're like, let's do this, and then they're like, oh, shiny, something new, let's go do that
It's
instead.
Salem. It's just Salem.
It's just
Caleb
Salem.
is actually writing this show.
Maybe. I think it was, I kept thinking they have that kind of tack board with all the post-it notes with all the good ideas, but they didn't actually do enough to like connect them, what you're supposed to do when you get the ideas
Right.
on the
Red
board.
lines everywhere.
They
Exactly.
didn't actually do that at all. They put all the post-its in one of those like globe things that like shoots the air up,
Like
and then
the
they just
bingo
like grab
globes.
one.
Yeah,
out.
the bingo
And you're like,
Bingo
what
ball.
we're writing about. Let's go. It was an improv exercise.
This entire show is just an
They're like, okay, guys, improv
And
skills,
for an
let's go.
improv exercise, I think they did really well.
Yes, and
Also, like, I just peeked at the, like, talking points. All the music, loved the songs, just really random.
Okay, going back actually to, first off, I am 16 going on 17. Don't touch that, okay? Just go away. That was awful. I hated it. No.
You know what? It was good if she had just sang the first part
Over and over again.
and Nick hadn't joined in because that was just dumb and weird. No one needed a duet.
Yeah.
So
Also, that's not a mantra.
That's just a song.
Right, I was like, how is it a
Yeah.
mantra?
But I was like, it'd be really kind of cool and creepy if you were just doing it over and over again. So, like, all right.
considering that one of the lyrics is, I know that I'm naive, and she's not at all naive at all. She's the opposite of naive, whatever that is. It was so generally speaking, Riverdale does this too with the musicals that they do. I actually like it more on Riverdale than what they've done on this show, because they pull random songs and they redo them just because they have people who can sing, sort of, theoretically,
Like Total
I guess.
Eclipse of the Heart.
Randomly, total eclipse of the heart in the middle of nowhere. The Battle of the Bands thing at least had a construct.
Right.
But then it was randomly Time Warp. Like, why did they sing Time Warp?
Okay, but Time Warp is
But Time Warp was so much better than Sabrina's stupid band, and why did she win?
I agree.
Didn't
And
even
also,
need that.
why did they sing Sweet Child of Mine just about the little prom queen that got murdered? Is that what it was?
who then lit the band on fire, and that somehow did something?
And that was the lamest version of Sweet Child of Mine I've ever heard in my life. That was tamer than Sheryl Crow's version of Sweet Child of Mine.
Agreed.
I
But then
did
back.
love-
So
I did
Time
love
Warp
Robin
is a
singing Time
fabulous
Warp.
choice, but they did.
I also loved Robin singing Time
Yeah.
Warp.
Like, I now need to see Robin is in a show for
Well,
that.
he was
specifically.
clearly channeling Riff Raff correctly, so that was okay. And to that end, I would have liked it better if there was more, I guess, of a build-up toward that. It just,
Yeah.
when it landed into Time Warp, they did all right with it. It was the best of the three things we heard in the Battle of the Bands, but it wasn't very good.
It was the weirdest Time Warp I've ever heard because it was the only Time Warp I've ever heard where the dance never happened.
Yeah.
Where the Time Warp itself did not occur.
Correct.
I think if you I can't remember. I think if you listen to the song, the soundtrack though on Spotify, they do record that part.
Oh, I'm
It's
sure they
about the
do.
dancing.
It's just so interesting. And also, that heavy metal song sucked so bad. It was the worst. And I don't understand why it was implied that they won and that Time Warp was not going to win. And then all of a sudden, Sabrina and the other witches came in and they were like, now we're singing this really bad version of Sweet Child of Mine and we win.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
I think, I'm not positive because I'm not going to lie to you, I started to check out during this episode right around this
I
time.
understand.
Yeah.
I don't blame you.
I think the reason why Satanic Panic, the name of the murdered punk band, was that Lucifer was their manager and he was just overriding the public opinion at the time. But then Sabrina came through with Sweet Child of Mine and torched the band that he was the manager for, so he could no longer pull that card.
But then why wouldn't they be like, okay, now let's vote?
Babe, Battle of the Bands goes by who gets the loudest cheer, but they didn't actually do like a cheer thing. They just went by at the end of the songs.
Yeah, that one was like a process of elimination, like literally.
So, like, the loudest cheer at the end of the song was
The winner.
Sabrina's band
I
because
mean-
they were cheering for them torching
Correct.
Maybe?
the
Yes.
Panic. Is
Yeah.
that what we're... Okay.
She also said something about, and we rocked you, or some crappy thing
Yeah.
she said.
Even though they really didn't.
Correct.
We were
wish they did.
amazing! Cheer for us! I'm going to start doing that at the end of all my shows.
That's more or
I
less
was
what
so
she
good,
did.
clap for me.
Exactly. That's
And
more or
now
less.
you clap.
Why is there no applause? I was fantastic.
Oh boy. So there's the chilling adventures of Sabrina. how would you say that this half season ranks amongst the 4?
Better than 3, but I don't remember 2 very well. Below 1 and 2, maybe? I don't remember 2. I don't.
I think it literally went 1, 2, 3, 4 for how the seasons were.
I agree with Jen. I think it started off in a place and has steadily gone downhill since.
It was like, we can do this. Oh, we didn't finish building the roller coaster, and there we go.
Because
there was potential.
Exactly. I don't think that part 4 was better than part 3 because the finale was so awful that it kind of undercut everything. Personal opinions.
You think part 4 was better than part 3?
Selene said that part 4 might have been a little bit better than part 3. And I was disagreeing with that because part 4 was attached to the series finale, which was terrible. Horrendous.
Yeah, I think my problem comes mostly with how they did the entire pagan storyline. Also, I just had a lot more... Okay, so we have recently come to the realization that I have a really hard time with anxiety during a lot of TV shows. And if we're being completely honest, when we started watching season 4, my anxiety level was about, like, eye length. And I was like, why am I watching this? Eye height, sorry, not length. I was like, why am I watching this show? Why did I agree? I should have just said no. And it took like the first 3 episodes before I was like, you know what? I'm actually having fun with this again. Most of season 3 was not having fun. It was just a lot of anxiety. And I had a lot more fun in this season, and I wasn't as anxious watching it. So that's why I think this one was better. I think it was a cluster writing wise, but I think they had a lot more fun ideas, and it was not as jumbled up for me, at least emotionally.
Are you sure it wasn't just better because we were making fun of it the whole time we watched it?
I don't know.
Yeah, because so I thought that season 4 had a lot of potential, and the fact that they came up with, I don't even know if there are this many eldritch horror/terrors, but the fact that they came up with so many and that kind of became the episodic device, I thought, okay, I'm along for this, except that half of those episodes were kind of duds. They were hard to get through. The other half were okay. None of them really tied together in a meaningful way other than big scary bad thing comes after Sabrina and Sabrina magically defeats it in ways that really shouldn't have happened. Why are they so easy to kill, as I think Jess said earlier.
Yeah.
And then if they had ended on a better note, I guess I didn't like part 3 either, but where it ended had much more solid anticipation, wanting to know what happened next. There was at least, I liked some of the songs better that they picked in season 3, part 3, whatever it is. Season 4 just landed for me as, I can't say it was a massive disappointment because I really haven't really enjoyed this as much. I mean, I don't mind it. I think if I were to give it a grade, which by the way is the next question, I would probably give it a C+. It's not good. It's not bad. It's definitely mediocre. But for season 4, I just felt like that landed with a splat as opposed to a thud.
It might have helped, my opinion, knowing that this was done. I was not.
This is the end.
I didn't go into it thinking that I was going to end wanting to watch more. I assume, I couldn't even tell you if it was decided when they made this season that it was going to be the end. I'm assuming given the ending, but I don't know. I think it definitely, I didn't come to the ending expecting for there to be more or wanting to know what was happening next. I expected it to end in a good spot, and I hated the last scene. I think it should have ended the scene before. I hated that last minute. Should never have happened.
Yeah, they're always catering to like whatever romance they think we want, and I think that especially in that moment, that was first of all just stupid, and second of all actually a dangerous message to send.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So does everyone, aside from Selene saying 1, 2, 4, 3, is everybody else 1, 2, 3, 4?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kels shrugs. Why are you shrugging, Kels?
I don't have an opinion.
That's just.
But you're on this.
I'm like
podcast though. You need a
1, 2, and then 3 and 4 are like the same.
Okay.
Me.
All right.
Like it just kind of plateaued.
That's fair. We've had that kind of opinion formulated before. That is an opinion.
Great. Because it's mine.
Okay, good. So I graded this. Now we're going to transition into the looking back / canceled corner pieces of the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, where we now process these 2 seasons as a whole. So I already gave it my grade. You don't have to give it a grade. You can give it a star rating, like in the star rating scale, or you can give it whatever rating you want. How would you grade or rate Chilling Adventures of Sabrina now that you've seen the whole thing? I said C+.
Can I give it a report card?
Yes.
I think A+ in aesthetics. I think visually it was really fun and great. And I think a lot of the soundtrack options they made outside of like musical numbers they did were great. I think Sabrina herself gets an F. Not the actress, the character. Kiernan Shipka did great. I really can't stand the character. I think that's writing more than her, but whatever. I loved a lot of the ideas they went with, so I'm going to give them a B+ and I think tank. B+ in coming up with really fun ideas. E in execution of those ideas.
She's got E's
And
and F's.
you're using it both in E and F scale. This is interesting. Is it just E for execution? Is that why?
I'm not going to fail them.
I believe that's called a D-.
Well, technically a D- is a 60, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So 60. So they're not below 50 with an E.
No.
They're still above a 50.
So
right?
E and F are actually the same thing.
Yes. That is true.
Well, I obviously never got one, so I guess I don't know.
Hashtag humble brag. Well, that went a place.
Sorry. That's not true. I did actually get an F in college, but that's because I decided not to I just gave up on the class and stopped showing up.
Kids, don't
Parents,
try this
please
at
don't
home.
listen. Actually, you already know. You didn't find out until after I graduated.
I hope they're not listening. So does that
They
conclude
won't.
your report? Does that conclude your report card, Selene?
Yep, basically. I'm sure there's more. I'll think of them
Did
later, but it's
Kels
fine.
just Jedi mind trick
conclude it
you? What the hell just happened? You will be done. Wow.
I just really like the aesthetic and the thoughts, the execution, and some characters I really didn't like.
Kel, since you Jedi mind tricked your wife out of fetching a report card, I think you should go next.
Did I?
You sure did. You went like this.
Oh, I don't know how I did that. I was just petting a cat. I just know I didn't really like it, but I did like the aesthetic of the show a lot, and Ambrose, and that's about it. So I'm like torn. Like I think I kind of agree with your C-.
I gave it a C+.
Like a low C-.
Okay. So barely
C-
passing
minus?
into college.
Like I'm trying to decide if I want to do a D+ or a C-, but I don't think I want to go as far as a D+.
So you're like on the
still-
Western scale where you do a CD instead of a plus it's a CD.
There you go. Yeah, because I don't think I would ever watch it again, but maybe for like if I was really bored just because I like the aesthetic, I might throw on an episode in the background just for like images and the soundtrack, but not because I like it.
No, I will agree that the soundtrack songs that they chose to play as opposed to the ones they chose to sing, whoever was picking the music, great.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Them having to sing it, could have done without it.
Yeah. Well, also I would really like to know if they cast those people knowing that they would be singing later. Like if they were like, hey, this is gonna be a singing role, or if they were just like, oh shoot, you're in a band and we're actually going to make you sing a lot. So, like, here's this voice coach.
I think it's a little column A, a little column B, because I think they were modeling Riverdale.
Yeah.
Riverdale has some of those people cast. They didn't really do a lot of singing. I mean, KJ Apa did. He's always been a musician. Archie has always been a musician in Riverdale. They didn't start doing their musical things until season 2. Mm-hmm. So I think those are very popular for the Riverdale cast. And since the guy who created that also created this, I think he was like, well, let's just, hopefully we have some ringers and they'll sing. Because not all of them could sing. The guy playing Nick can't sing, for sure. And I'm not even sure that the guy playing Harvey, Ross Lynch, sang for himself. I think there was a He was lip
Nope,
singing.
he sang because
Okay.
he's in a band.
Oh, is he? Okay.
Yeah,
like a
and he
family
was
band,
on.
but-
Yeah, he was on Disney Channel too, and a lot of his role involved singing.
Okay.
That was like his shtick. Oh, and for younger listeners too, he was in Teen Beach Movie. So it's like a High School Musical weird thing of that.
It's like High School Musical meets Weird Time Travel.
I have no idea what this is.
Yeah.
I don't
You're
know
not
what this
missing out.
means.
Don't watch it.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's not good.
I feel safe in not watching it.
You're here for TV, not TV movies for TV.
Or anything on the Disney Channel. But that's a whole other thing. So Kels graded it CD, I guess, or a C- if people want to translate that into something that I don't understand the Western thing. If Western Michigan, I guess, is what you're saying.
Western Michigan University just grades weird. They don't give you minuses or pluses. You either get the solid letter, or it's like a CD or a C or BC. You don't get pluses or minuses.
Yeah, let's just call it a C-.
Wow.
Jess, what would you grade Chilling Adventure?
Okay, because I'm a firm believer that C's get degrees. I'm gonna give it a C solely on the fact that seasons 1 and 2 tried really hard. Like, they tried. And the music, like you guys have all brought up, minus what they sang, was really, really good. And aesthetically, I liked the dark gloominess of it. I liked the costuming. I liked the makeup. I also love the fact that the girl that played Prudence did her own finger waves because they couldn't find anybody to do it for her, and she rocked it every single time.
Every time.
Every time. So for that, I'm going to give it a C because it tried. But then 3 and 4 came along and they were like, it's our senior year, we're going to party. And then they just So Sabrina gets a C for trying.
Jess has all the metaphors today.
I
like that metaphor a lot.
Jen.
I also, I have a question, but I want to let Jen go first.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I think I'm actually going to give it keeping the same grading or scaling system. C's get degrees. So I'd give it a C. I think the first 2 seasons, their first 2 parts were the best. And I think overall something to keep in mind that we talked about too is how they handled Theo's transition storyline. I'm keeping that in mind too, but otherwise definitely wasn't perfect, as you can tell with season 3 or 4. But otherwise, I'm glad I watched it. I don't think I'll rewatch it though.
Kels, your question.
Solid. Here's my question, and it probably was like totally answered in the show. I just have like the worst memory ever. When did we transition from like witches being actually like serving, like, okay, this maybe I'm answering my own question, but like, remember how when Sabrina was first becoming a witch, she had to do all this stuff that was like actually terrible and horrible? And then now all of a sudden she doesn't? Like, what? When did that change? Was it just when they decided to stop serving Satan?
Yes.
And they're serving
Yeah.
Satan?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
That's what I thought when I was answering my own question. But I just, as I was watching this past season, I was like, what the heck happened to that part? Because I actually liked that storyline. I thought that was cool that she was struggling with her morality in that way.
Can you imagine if she in season 4 had to do everything in season 1 again? She her morality is gone. She had,
Yeah.
Hell, Morningstar had more morality than Spellman did.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Like
the entire... Honestly, I also would like to bring up one really random point. Halfway through this season, when the worlds are about to collide and she has to go and tell the ants, oh, I actually have a clone of me. There's 2 of us. Also, we've been meeting. And she's just suddenly like, yeah, no, I'm going to go tell the aunties. It's fine. And then is like, yeah, I'm taking responsibility. I did this. What changed? Because the Sabrina, I would even fair to say 5 minutes prior to that in that episode would not have done that. And suddenly she does it and with no problem whatsoever, like straight up is about to own it. I'm very confused as to what made that switch happen.
the same switch that made Nick suddenly fall in love with her again.
What I took from it, and you can take it or leave it, was that the only thing that got her to take responsibility for her actions was the fact that the worlds were colliding and about to annihilate each other. She thought everything was going to die, and it really was kind of her fault. So now she finally decided to say, it was me.
Counterpoint, in discussion right now, what if it's the fact that it made her be the center of attention again? Because honestly, up until that point, she's all mopey because no one's paying attention to her. But now, if she's the one creating the chaos of the world, she'll take responsibility.
Well, that requires, to quote Star Wars trilogy somewhere, I think Return of the Jedi, that depends on how you're looking at it from a certain point of view. If you're subscribing to Chilling Adventures of Sabrina as an ego journey of the main character, then sure, yes, this is your theory holds water. But I don't think that was the writer's intention, at least I'm gathering that's not the writer's intention. It's hard to know because the writer's intentions were not well translated. But
because
it
was improv.
I know.
It was a cat. A cat doing improv.
So to that end, if you're viewing this as one gigantic improv exercise, it doesn't matter. Your question is moot.
There. I sustain, Your Honor.
This panel is so much fun. So we've already panned the series finale, but I'll ask you, do you think it was a proper send-off or no?
No.
I mean,
That was firm.
for how it was going, I'm glad it ended. So I was relieved at that part.
Wow.
I think they should have yeeted everyone into the void.
And just lived inside of Sabrina for forever.
There's a second secret hashtag, yeeted into the void. Our Gen Z people will love this.
I got both the secret hashtags.
I'm going to use that from now on. Man, I'm having a bad day. I'm just going to yeet it into the void.
It's trending.
I think that Sabrina sacrificing herself to get everyone out of the void and to get the Eldritch Terrors to kind of void themselves into Pandora's box, not a bad ending. My real big problem is the fact that they did the entire little after the hereafter scene. That's what really bothered me. Sabrina actually being dead doesn't bother me.
No,
Lilith finally becoming Queen of Hell only bothers me because she murdered her own son.
Oh,
Which we haven't talked about.
We didn't even talk about that. But also, pinning that because the scene where she kills Lucifer was so boss.
She didn't kill him though.
Well, okay, but
manages him to live as a human.
That's right. But like where she's like stabbing him in the wing holes, and then she like is just like eating his green and black blood. That was so sweet.
Immortal blood.
I do have to say that up until that moment and maybe the heretofore mentioned murder of her baby, which was shocking. That one was a little shocking.
That was very shocking.
Michelle Gomez, this part was highly underutilized compared to previously. Lilith was almost a non-role, and Mary Wardwell was somehow became the chief disciple in the Lovecraftian church.
Yeah.
Which also how her transition from I am a scared Christian to all of a sudden an acolyte or whatever you want to call her, like in the church was very did not happen on screen, and there was not enough exposition for me to be like, why are you suddenly with Blackwood and Agatha? Like,
there was no explanation at all.
No.
And it's sad because Michelle Gomez is such a great actress and really was one of my favorite parts of certainly the first couple of seasons, parts, whatever we're calling them. The Lilith character and the whole subsuming the identity of Mary Wardwell was one of the best parts of the show. And then once they sort of resolved that, where she had a double, if you will, and was back into their own bodies, I guess, or whatever, and it was in this season. I mean, even her getting pregnant and having this child and then killing this child, that was supposed to be her ploy for the throne. That whole thing was a cluster, but I do agree that her taking on Lucifer, even though there was a lot to suspend disbelief that he would have been defeated by Lilith, even doing this, it was still cool to watch. But I mean, he's Satan. She hasn't killed him all the way up until this point. Why now?
well, I mean, it's the spear that she got, that Caliban gave her, the one that killed Jesus.
Yeah, where did he get that?
He got it from the centurion in hell. Like, he brought it to her so that she would kill herself And she was going to until she found out about Lazarus being there, and then she decided to kill him, which...
Okay, that might have been one of the parts I was checking out on.
Well, I mean, also, real briefly, I really want to know what boon Mambo Marie gave her for killing Lazarus. Because that is one little thread that I really wanted to know the end of.
Maybe that was the thing. Maybe the boon was the thing that Caliban brought her.
No, because that's what she used to kill Lazarus. She already had it.
Yeah, she already had that.
I assumed it was going to be Adam coming back at some point, and then we hear his voice coming from that creepy doll thing.
That creepy doll that the chain fell off of.
Mm-hmm.
But it didn't go anywhere from there, so I don't know.
That whole thing was mishandled too, personally.
I mean, once she said she would do anything to make sure Adam did not get into the hands of Lucifer, I totally was like, oh my god, she's going to pull a Medea. Mm-hmm. And then she actually did. But I thought she was going to pull a fake Medea. Like, make it look like she killed Adam, hide him away, and then actually bring him back out.
I thought that.
I was real shocked when she actually pulled a Medea.
Yeah.
Up until this point in the show, Lilith had been played as somewhat of a tragic character. And then when she did this, it was like, oh, so no, she's just, in fact, real evil and ambitious. But with a soft, mushy center that did care for the baby she killed because she felt guilt. But, you know, I don't know. I think they did not do well by Michelle in this last part. And I didn't really enjoy it.
Yeah.
So. But I agree, this was not a proper send-off. I mean, maybe it was proper for the show that was, in a sense, because it was always kind of crazy. But like I said, it is one of the worst finales, in my personal opinion, because even though everything was wrapped up, I'm not sad. I feel less than satisfied or dissatisfied with what I watched. Not just because of the weird pro-suicide business with Nick, and not because Sabrina ended up quote-unquote dead, and not because... I mean, I thought the middle part where she was on the table and sacrificing herself to end the void, that was pretty good. Most of it was just Crazy Train, since we already sang that song, of random plot developments that they kind of stitched together to... I think it was bang. You know, they were trying to go for big and impressive to end the show, but it ended up being more frustrating than anything. I've never been so disengaged from a final episode that I can remember in recent memory. There's lots of quibbles you can make, like on a lot of different shows, people have very strong opinions. Game of Thrones comes to mind. There's lots of those shows lately that have very divisive, not necessarily what you would expect kind of things. I am always along for anything like that, so long as it made sense from what came before. This one started off like it was going to make sense, and then it kind of just petered into, well, considering you didn't really sew together your tapestry of good ideas, I don't care. I left at the end of the finale like, I don't care about anything I just watched. I have strong opinions today. Wow.
You two have feelings.
I have feelings! And they're all valid. Do you think this show would held up with the passage of time? Why or why not? Was it time for it to go? Would you have watched more seasons, or should it have ended sooner?
Should have ended sooner.
Yep.
As for will it withstand the passage of time?
No.
Yeah, I still think aesthetically wise, and for the subversion it did in the first two seasons, particularly the first season, maybe. But the last two seasons, definitely not. You might as well just cut those off and throw them away. The first two, maybe.
I just think I think it's too inundated into, like, this particular era and time, though. Like, I think there's certain, like, I know that it feels like a timeless place, but I feel like there's language used by, like, the younger teenagers. There's a certain feel that feels very, like, 2020 to me. And I don't know that that's going to carry forward.
I think I agree that it won't hold up, because I think it's all part of the Riverdale moment, which is now. And Riverdale has the same sort of aesthetic in the sense of not the spookiness, but it has sort of the dark, shadowy, creepy factor. That's what Riverdale is. It's the dark underbelly of the Archie Comics universe. That's what it sold itself on. And it uses the same device of saying, we don't really know what time period we're in. We know we're modern, but there's all this old-fashioned stuff that they still use. There is modern songs and less modern songs that they still use to try to obfuscate what the timing is. But that in itself feels like a moment thing. Like it's a, late teens, early 2020s moment.
Yeah, I guess, that's kind of what I'm getting at, too. Yeah.
I also agree that it should have ended sooner, which I almost never think, but considering that it went nowhere, I mean, I think the first 2 halves or the 1 season probably would have done right by it. And they could have maybe, if they'd have thought of some... Actually, no. I don't think any of the ideas that they had in seasons 3 and 4 really worked for me. The secret story about her being Lucifer's daughter and struggling through all of that business and kind of introducing the world, that was interesting to me. I didn't love the show ever, but at least that was interesting to me. And the past couple of seasons were not very interesting.
Yeah.
Still easy to watch, but not interesting. Everybody's nodding.
I agree, and I think that Sabrina just got more and more intolerable.
Yes.
And when your main character is that annoying, it's really hard to watch, even if you love the other characters.
Well, especially when everybody else seems to love them despite how annoying they are. I think there's something to be said about having annoying characters as long as the people in the world around them acknowledge the annoyingness. But it doesn't seem... I mean, like, there were moments when they were like, okay, Sabrina, like, you're a little much at this moment, but they never got really annoyed with her. Outside of the aunties being like...
Actually, ironically, the one who got the most annoyed with her at any given time was Ambrose, which is, I think, I'm going to theorize, part of the reason why y'all like him so much. Because he was the most vocal about it. Zelda poo-pooed. Hilda said, "Oh, dearie, sweetie, baby, here's your sugar, here's your tea." But Ambrose actually actively called her out and said, and especially
I told you this was going to happen, don't do it.
Exactly. He said things like that all the time. When she said she was going to own up to something, he said, "Really? You're really going to do it this time?" Agreed. Everybody else is kind of just nodding like, yes, we agree. It should have ended after 1 season, 2 parts. All right.
I mean, it tried, and I wanted it to succeed. I'll be honest, I did, because I do like Riverdale, so I had hopes, but then I noticed Riverdale was kind of starting to nosedive, so therefore this show kind of followed suit and never really took off like I wanted, so unfortunately, I think it could have ended sooner and could have been better.
So to that end, you agree with the decision to cancel then?
Yeah.
Yes.
And have no problems with the fact that Netflix did it?
Nope.
Especially now because I know there's going to be a crossover. So even though Sabrina's gone, I'll still get to see her in Riverdale, so it's fine.
That would have
I
been...
don't know how that's going to work.
I don't know, because my theories were all poo-pooed, so...
Yeah.
Well, I will say that would have been the one regret walking away from this cancellation, is the fact that they, at least until they announced this, had never crossed over the shows. Because that was the whole bill, they... Initially, Sabrina was supposed to be on the CW because Warner Brothers owns it. It was supposed to marry with Riverdale. They decided it was too dark. They wanted to use swear words. They wanted to show some sexier times than what network censors allow. And so Netflix gladly said, okay, well, we'll do it because we have a contract with the CW anyway and we get all their shows. And that's how Sabrina appeared there. But then when it went, after there had been some pretty heavy talk about the possibility of crossover, they were all saying, well, now it can't happen because this is over here on the CW and this is over here on Netflix. I'm glad that they're finding a way to do this now because really that would have been the reason. I don't know that I would have watched The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina or Riverdale, quite honestly, if not for the crossover potential between the shows. That was the enticement for me because I like a good multiverse. So, and Archie comics, all that jazz. All that jazz. So, Roberto Aguirre Sacasa created both of these shows. Only Jessica and I watch both. First question. This is a 2-part question. For those of you who are not watching Riverdale, are you now motivated to watch it based on this show?
Nope.
No. before I watched Sabrina, I actually tried to watch the first season of Riverdale, and I couldn't even finish that.
Okay, Jen tried, so I'll give you points. And Kels and Selene, I've said it, I think I said it online, I know I said it offline. I'm willing to bet money they would hate it. So I'm willing to bet money. There is a female-female relationship on the show. I still think you would hate the show. And that is Selene's minimum threshold for many shows. Is there a lesbian relationship? Okay, I'll watch it.
It's true.
So
it's something that I roll my eyes at very frequently.
I know.
There's lesbians on the show. You have to watch it.
I still think you would find yourself really regretting that decision. It's just really not in your wheelhouse. But prove me wrong when you watch the crossover. Okay! Second part of this question. I know. Second part of this question. If Roberto creates anything else, would you watch it?
It depends on what it is.
Not on purpose, probably. But not because I have anything against him, just because I don't usually pay attention to who creates things.
You're one of those.
Yeah, I'm one of those people who's like, ooh, that preview looks cool, I'm gonna watch it. And then someone's like, hey, that's by the same person who did this. And I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. They feel similar. Or they don't. And then I'm just like, wow, weird.
As I've said before, I do pay attention to the creators. That's why I asked this question. Now ask me if I would watch anything created by Roberto.
Hey, Kylie, would you watch anything created by Roberto?
The answer is no. After Riverdale and Sabrina, I am pretty much spent. Okay. Riverdale I still enjoy because of certain characters, but that's, as Jess said, Nosedive is pretty accurate, and if it weren't for Cole Sprouse, I would have bailed a long time ago. And then Sabrina, yeah. I'm thankful that it was 2 seasons and only 2 or 4 or whatever. I don't know what's saying. Okay, would you follow any of these actors to future or past TV projects? Quite a few of them have them. Probably the most famous person coming into this cast was Miranda Otto, but not for her TV career, her film career. Otherwise, the most notable project that probably anybody has heard of is The Office. Lucy Davis was the original. She wasn't called Pam. She was called, it was Tim and...
I don't remember either.
Well, she was like 2 decades.
10 years or something since I've seen.
So she was the, not Pam on the UK Office with Ricky Gervais. That's her claim to fame. Otherwise, most of the... Kiernan Shipka, if you watch Mad Men, you know who she was. But I had never watched Mad Men, so...
I did!
Ross Lynch was Jeffrey Dahmer in My Friend Dahmer.
Yeah,
that's a movie, isn't it?
It is a movie, yeah.
Yeah. I only listed the TV projects.
I don't watch a lot of TV unless I'm on a panel.
Welcome to the world, United Couch Potato. Would you follow any of these actors or actresses to other projects, TV or otherwise?
I'd follow Luke Cook, the guy that played Lucifer. I really enjoy him. And I love Miranda Otto.
Same. I'll follow Michelle Gomez, Tati Gabrielle, and probably Miranda Otto.
Tati's the whole reason I want to get back into You.
She's on
because she's
3.
in this season.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
I would follow Michelle Gomez only.
Randomly, we were watching a mini-series. Oh, you're not going to say the same thing I was going to say. We were watching a mini-series? Of what? Going postal. Oh. And Richard Coyle was in it. And it was like, this is so weird. I actually am supposed to be rooting for your character for this movie, or this show, not hating you. It's so weird.
I actually watched, I listed it here. There was a canceled show called Crossbones, which was all about pirates, and I actually watched it shortly after it was on, not live. I think I watched it after it was canceled. It was still pretty good. It was one of those that kind of got unfairly aired in the summer when nobody was going to watch TV the same. And he was in it. I don't really remember him very well because there were more luminary stars in it. But if you like pirates, I'd recommend Crossbones. It's like a 10-episode investment.
I was just rewatching the last season of Supernatural, and Dr. Cerberus was in it, and I totally didn't realize that until I was watching it today. And I was like, hey, I know that guy. Hey!
Dr. C.
Oh, it's going to bug me now. Do you remember which episode he was in?
The 18? Maybe? Or 19? He plays Adam.
Oh, my God.
When he goes to the Garden of Eden.
Yep. Okay. I remember.
No, it's not in the Garden of Eden.
It's not?
No, they go to.
Oh, that's right.
Weird,
He's
like,
the nymphomaniac Adam
Yeah,
version.
is that some sort of shop?
Yeah, he had the, well, that's for the Supernatural podcast, which is upcoming.
Yeah.
But yes,
Yeah.
he was a little bit too makey-outy with his partner there. That's not Eve.
Serafina.
Yes.
Wow, Selene.
Yeah, Selene.
So all of a sudden,
Selene watched it with me.
I guess.
Yeah.
And paid attention. That's what I'm marveling at.
I know.
I'm really good. Also, first off, I'm good at names. And also names that happen to usually be witches in other shows, aka his Dark Materials.
Oh yeah, Serafina is a witch in his Dark Materials.
Did you watch that show?
We started.
We did not finish. Yeah.
So because this is a canceled corner, because it ended after what we're calling 2 seasons, although who really knows anymore, this is an around the water cooler question. We have 2 of these around the water cooler questions, maybe a couple more depending upon how you answer. What would you say are the top 3 pros and the bottom 3 cons of watching Chilling Adventures of Sabrina?
Be the aesthetic.
Yes. Aesthetic, music, and your co-stars. Not a lot of, like, Ambrose, the aunties. I think a lot of
The cast?
not main characters were
So
great.
what she's saying is anyone besides Sabrina.
Who is the top or the bottom one? She is the number 1 con.
Yeah.
The con list is just Sabrina without Sabrina Morningstar, and
Yeah.
Sabrina.
Sabrina Spellman, Sabrina Morningstar, and Sabrina.
Is
Baby
this,
that.
is this a universal pros and cons list? So you're saying
I think
aesthetic,
so.
music, and the cast minus Sabrina, and then the cons are all Sabrina.
Okay, it's Sabrina without Sabrina Morningstar, and the improv writing team ran by.
Yes.
I was going to say,
There you
I was going to say if you were on me unanimous, I was going to go rogue because I would have put the writing as number 1,
That's fair.
and then Sabrina
Yeah.
all Sabrina.
Okay, I'll go with that.
Okay.
I don't know if this would count as writing too, but I think them also trying to incorporate things from Riverdale with like all the random musical numbers.
Yeah.
So I'm going to parse that out. Yes, on the random musical numbers, because I feel like that device, aside the one time when they sang the song from Spring Awakening, that worked for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
But
I agree with that.
there are other moments when it didn't work, which was more often the case that it didn't work.
Like 16 going on 17.
Awful.
Exactly.
That's great, however.
Oh my god.
I forgot about that. I think I purposely blocked that one out.
That did not work, Selene. I loved it so much, though.
I'm still back on. I think the only time it really worked for me was the Spring Awakening song.
Okay.
Just because it all had to do with that ritual and
Yeah.
that holiday, and it just made sense in terms of the context of what we were talking about. Everything else was just...
When did the Fright Club go from a group of friends who actually like hung out and tried to fight bad things to like just a band?
This season, because I think it wasn't told well, but that whole piece about Sabrina coming back as regular Sabrina and not connecting with her friends, they actually, Theo, I think, is the one who says, we don't really do Fright Club stuff anymore because you chased away all the bad things. So we've just been hanging out as a band. So I do think they did say it.
Yeah, you're right. I do kind of remember that now.
But then the bad stuff comes back and they're still just a band.
Right.
The baddies came back.
Not just Bloody Mary.
Right. Exactly. So the just to want to make sure the cons are summarized fairly. Writing. Oh, that's right, because Jen said Riverdale thing. When they Easter egged Riverdale, I didn't mind that. But the
No, that's fine.
yeah.
I just didn't want to. I mean, obviously, it's the same writers, and then it's technically in the same universe as Riverdale, but I think having them kind of copy everything from Riverdale, add that into the Sabrina aesthetic, I don't think that translated well.
Agreed. I just think writing makes all 3 cons the cons, but remember, Couch Potatoes Unite does feel a certain sense of responsibility toward its listeners in terms of whether or not we endorse a show. Would you recommend The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina to others? Why or why not?
No.
Why not?
Because I think there are better things to watch. I mean, if somebody asked me about it and they seemed like they really were interested, I'd say that, yeah, sure, go ahead and watch it. But if someone was like, hey, what are you watching right now? What do you recommend? This would not be at the top of my list.
I'd say that too, but again, knowing the person, if they would want to watch it, I'd say just watch the first 2 seasons or first 2 parts. If you want to watch the rest of it, that's on you.
Jen took my answer. I had to sneeze, though. But that's exactly what I was thinking. I would say no, but if you're like really dead set on it and you don't, because I'm one of those people that no matter what, I like to finish a show, whether I'm on a panel or not, and no matter how bad it is, I like to finish shows.
Me too.
But if you're one of those people that can like start a series and never finish it, then yeah, give season 1 and 2 a chance, and then if you watch after that, that's on you because I warned you. But no, I would not suggest it.
I would say it depends on... There are 2 instances in which I would recommend this show. 1, if I really don't like you.
Wow.
2, if you're one of those people who really enjoys watching stuff like this in kind of like a hate watch kind of way, because in that case, I think it would be a really fun show to watch if you go in knowing that you're probably going to hate a lot of things about it. I mean, there's a lot of stuff to love, but overall, being as there are a lot of things that don't get done well. Yeah. I think it would be one of those fun ones to like maybe get together with friends and like
make a drinking game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Make a drinking game out of this show. That'd be fun. Then I'd watch it again.
Well, you're all going to be shocked by this answer, but generally speaking, I would not recommend Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. I know.
Now you took my response.
The only time that I could see this show being something to sort of say, hey, blah, 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 is if you are, in the case of many of our panelists, a fan of the old show and you just want to see some of the stuff they did, especially the crossover, the second to last or penultimate episode of the series. Otherwise, it might be fun to play in the background for a Halloween party. That's about all I got. To sit down and actually watch this thing, I think most people would be very frustrated by it. The discerning viewers that I know amongst our couch potatoes and otherwise, I think would be very frustrated by this show. And I don't think the aesthetic and the music and even just the cast members, which are the pros that we cited, are enough to eke the enjoyment out of it. I mean, I gave it a C+. I stand by that. That's not an endorsing grade. That's just, I watched it. I don't regret watching it. I'm an informed viewer. If my opinion matters to you, no, don't do it. But at least it's short, so if you try to, I mean, it's 16 to 32 episodes. Good luck to you, but I wouldn't. At this point, do you have any parting shots, hopes and dreams, final words, closing statements, since this is an ended show, regarding the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina? And this is an around the water cooler question as well. Whatever you want to say, what are your final words other than R.I.P.?
If I had an imp of the perverse, I would say I liked a lot about this show. Do it better.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like,
it had good bones in the first season.
At least it had bones.
dude, it was a bones day.
And then it turned into a no bones day.
It turned into a no bones day real fast.
Yes, I guess that's my parting shot.
Are you saying that Gilderoy Lockhart cast a spell on it and left its arms flappy?
No, we were making the TikTok reference.
Yeah.
I'm not cool enough because I don't watch the TikToks.
So, my parting thing is like, you know how when your parent says, I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed? That's how I feel about the show. I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed.
I'm going to say
And
that,
said, how
but
about Leo?
like a
Me
parent,
too.
I'm going to actually be mad.
Yes. And also, next time, just try to do better. But also, maybe don't try next time at all.
You know what? Next time, just use original material so that I don't have high expectations.
Actually, grab more from the comics that you said you were going to.
Right.
Or that.
And maybe
I think they did that for like the first part of the season, like the first couple of issues, and then they just didn't.
And, maybe don't focus so much on teenage orgies and focus more on witchcraft.
In all fairness, I think... Wait. Sabrina's the only teenager.
Hang on. Are you saying that witchcraft is not just orgies?
I'm so sorry to break it to you, but are you sitting down? Witchcraft is not just orgies. I had to say it
This panel's
point
awesome.
was focus on the comic and the witchcraft, not who's dating who and shacking up with
Fair.
who.
I agree.
Amen.
I agree. Or whatever they say. Thank Satan. Whatever they said in the thing instead of amen. I can't remember.
I almost was going to say Hail
Yeah.
Hydra, but that's not right.
That's a trademark of another thing.
Praise Satan.
I don't think we
Praise Satan.
Feels
Praise
weird.
Satan. And instead of what the hell, it was what the heaven.
I
Yeah,
did
I
love
remember
that one.
that.
That was weird.
It was like they were trying to do with like the Good Place for like the equivalent of swearing, but
Right.
using swear words and like Lord's name in vain or whatever the reverse is for that.
It reminded me of like in high school, my pagan friends used to say like, "Oh my gods."
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
was like, just no. It's like, you
How do
can
you
be
know?
pagan, that's fine, but like, why? No.
I thought they used it at some point in Sabrina.
Did they? Probably.
I think so.
Sounds like a thing they'd do.
It just got real heavy at some point.
Maybe this show was written by my friends in high school.
If so,
They
you
need
should
to
hit
do
them
better.
up, man. They might give you
Yeah.
some money.
We're mad
They
and we're
do.
disappointed in them.
I don't have... My parting shot really is... I think I'm too old for this. I was, you know, a little older when the first Sabrina came on, and I watched it mostly because my younger siblings were watching it, or at least my sister. And then I watched this one. That's all I got.
Do better.
I-
Adventures of Sabrina Chili Mac. Do better.
Yeah.
Hashtag Sabrina Chili.
That's a chili mac recipe I don't want.
I thought you were going into the other hashtag, yeeted into the void.
That one too.
Yeet your chili mac into the void.
My parting advice is just yeet the whole thing into the void. And I wish you good day.
Good day.
I said good day.
I said good day.
That's for that 70s show podcast, which we already did. Find it in our archives.
I just like helping to plug all the other ones. Like,
I appreciate it.
give them some love too.
Of course.
Right.
Hey, you do that on websites and blog posts all the time. Might as well do it for podcasts too.
Exactly.
Okay.
Right.
At this point, is there anything else left to say about these chilly adventures of Sabrina, the Teenage Witch?
Just that I'm gonna miss this panel.
Yeah. That's true.
Hearts.
This is my first, the end of a panel. This is a big deal.
You went from beginning to end on one. Yay!
And I actually got to participate and not just sit in the background and text Micah things
Jess,
to say
you're
for
so
me.
far past that now. Let it go.
I can't let it go.
Make like the Frozen arc of Once Upon a Time and let
And
it
just
go. Well,
But no, I really am going to miss this panel. This panel has been lovely. And it's like a bittersweet moment because this was not my first panel. Because Riverdale was my first panel, but this is my first panel that I've come to a completion on. So it's a little bittersweet.
I agree. This is an awesome panel of some really wonderful people with really wonderful chilling adventures of Sabrina type vibes. Even if the show itself didn't have those same vibes.
No. It tried.
Yeah.
It tried.
And then it stopped trying.
And then it was like, I'm done.
And then it was like, can I take this pass fail?
In which
Is
case,
it too late to withdraw?
yes.
Will I get my tuition money back?
No. This went to a weird spot.
Are we surprised?
No! But since it's in such a weird spot, I think I'm going to call it the end.
Sounds good.
Although I love
yeah.
Jess's sentiment, and I'd like to thank to that end Selene and Kels and Jess and Jen for joining us all to talk about Chilling Adventures of Sabrina from beginning to end. And There's more to come for our podcast, but not necessarily for this panel. Listen to the credits, you'll find out. Couch Potatoes Unite! Exclamation point was produced by Back Pocket Productions, run by yours truly, the Chief Couch Potato, which is really another way of saying executively produced by me, Kylie Piette. My associate producers are Krista Pennington and Selene Rezmer. I edit this podcast, and our logo is by Rebecca Wallace. Our marketing graphic artist is Krista. Our theme song was written by Sarah Milbratz and sung by Sarah, Amy McDaniel, and Kels Rezmer. Kels played the keyboard, Ian McDonough played the bass, Christian Somerville played the guitar, and the whole shebang was engineered by Kyle Aspinall and Christian. We hail from Grand Rapids, Michigan. Please, if you like what you hear, take the time to rate us, give us stars, provide comments, or review us wherever you get your podcasts. Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, CastBox, and Amazon are just a few of the places you can find us, but we're also on YouTube. We have our website. Otherwise, feel free to tell us how we're doing, what we should add, subtract, keep, or toss. You know how it goes. And if you have suggestions for shows we might consider, contact us at our website where we have a guest book, by email at couchpotatoesunitepodcast@gmail.com, our Facebook, our Twitter at CPU Podcast, our Instagram at Couch Potatoes Unite, or wherever you get your podcasts. Though, of course, we have new and old shows to chat about around the water cooler all the time, and always have new episodes coming down the pipe. Just listen to our intros. If you miss old episodes or want to know in general what shows we cover, just search for us. Find us wherever you do searchable things on the internet. Don't forget that exclamation point, or contact us via our website, our email, our social media accounts, and stay up on all the new events and episodes by our humble little podcast, Couch Potatoes Unite! Exclamation point. Until the next time, all available seasons of Chilling Adventures of Sabrina are available to stream on Netflix, as that's the network that made it. If you have nominations for shows we should cover on our podcast, contact us via social media or our email. You can volunteer to be a panelist too. In the meantime, and until next time, until next episode, new episodes are published every Wednesday. Keep listening, keep watching, stay tuned!
Bye-bye!